All right, guys, let's get into it. So I got Jim York on, and if you guys don't know him, he's pretty much the craziest person I follow on Instagram, for sure. How does your insurance? Do you have insurance? How does that work?
You have to have insurance, but I don't tell them much about what I do.
Yeah, I feel like they would immediately be skeptical.
Entertainment or marketing.
Yeah.
Pick your favorite.
Like, what do you tell them I do when you're like, hey, I need some, life and health insurance here?
I'm just heading to an event.
I just drive cars.
We'll leave it as vague as possible. I don't even go in the car thing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
We were talking the other day with JH, and he was like, you got to ask him about the math that he does before a jump. Because I was like, yeah, he's got to, know the trajectories and everything like that and speeds and stuff.
We're getting a little better, but usually it's if I go fast enough, it's probably safer than going too slow. So we'll try this and see if it works. Here's hoping. Yep.
That may be up to contention of the crowd.
Well, when you've done it, like when you hit a jump so many times, you can kind of look at an angle of a jump and say, that's too steep. This isn't going to work. If we do this, this, and this, and I go a little faster, we'll be good. So yeah, it's napkin math. That's the best way to explain it. There's enough that goes into it that it works, but not so much that you overthink it, because you get to that point and it probably is going to end in catastrophe versus just hoping for the best, expecting the worst, and give her the beans. Yeah,
just wide open.
Yeah,
you seem to use lower powered cars, which probably helps
the last,
a little bit.
Well,
LS Fest was pretty.
That one, that was the most horsepower I've ever had, and also the first I've ever gone. So
usually they're limos that make probably.
Yeah, well, we just did a limo jump up in Montana. Actually, it was the Jimkhana jump, and that car was so underpowered, and I did the test run out, and I'm like, this is going to be close. They said 55 was minimum speed. I kept that thing pinned, and right as I get to the transition where it's too late to back out, it downshifts, and you lose a lot of speed going up the sides of this ramp. Couldn't back out. Was just kind of like, ah! Yeah. And then you can see like my moment of relief in the eyes where it's just like, oh, I'm going to make it. And yeah, we actually beat the world record by 3 inches.
How does that work with the world record then? Is it Guinness, or do they?
There's a handful of guys that, yeah, unofficial, but there's one other guy that's kind of in contention for it. And as we've gone back and forth, he has every limo stat of like what the actual world record is. And so I'll just talk to him and say, hey, like dirt to dirt, what is it? And we've beat that and then beat it again. And the dude, it's a guy out of Wisconsin. I don't even recall his name. He just does it because he's crazy. And the first time I saw him jump, didn't know him. I got a text from actually Pastrana, who was just like, hey, I think this guy's going to beat you. And I'm like, oh, he's going to put a bunch of cars. He's going to put crash cars out or whatever. That doesn't really count. And I just get a video later, and I think he beat you. This guy sent it 145 feet to flat. But dirt to dirt, I have that one locked in for sure.
I can imagine there's not a huge community of people jumping limos.
2 in the world that I know of.
Yeah. so yeah. If you guys didn't talk, it'd be weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those, there's 2 of us, and it's a friendly battle of stupidity.
And it was that white one that I think I saw in Montana, that extra long one, too.
Yep, that was.
It wasn't like an average one like you jumped at SEMA.
No, that was a super stretch. That was kind of a last minute deal where he's like, the guy took it to prom. Like, it was kind of a family vehicle that he's like, oh, well, if it runs again, I'd love to take the kids or whatever. And it didn't run anymore. But he signed up for a bad idea, and it's one of those, careful what you ask for, because we
went going to run.
We've got another one that's at Trav's house. We filled the back up with water, jumped it. It's the world record hot tub limo jump. Mm-hmm. We got the world record in that.
What are these distances then?
Oh, that one wasn't crazy. I think we jumped that one about 100 feet. But, the only thing I'll say is...
And the other record, you said you were 3 inches past the guy. What was that one?
So I beat my own record by 3 inches at that one.
Yep. But how far was that?
110 feet. So,
okay.
None of these are, epically big, but at the same time,
that's
it's one of those,
serious.
Nobody's tried to beat it since, or really, I look at it as if you can beat it the next day, you definitely don't have a world record, but yet to have anybody beat the record unless it was me. So I'll take like anybody that wants to challenge it, go for it, and then we can get in a battle, and I'll whoop your ass with all due respect.
Well, the one at LS Fest West was pretty wild too, because you almost saved that one into the roll.
Yeah,
it landed so nicely, and then there was just not enough runoff. It looked like
that was the problem with a flat landing. is if you nose dart into dirt, it turns out that car rolls over. It was kind of what we expected, where the car starts to pitch at a certain amount of speed and a certain amount of distance. And I actually, in Montana, the scariest, we were just talking about this, the scariest jump I've ever done was in a Buick. The Buick that I jumped up there was a Buick Park Avenue. We had a very gentle sloping jump, or the pitch of it wasn't that much. It was like 11%, like a steep jump's about 15%. Mm-hmm. And when we went off that, I mean, this was like, don't try this at home. We're stupid.
I don't think anybody's trying this at home.
Like, I don't know, like bad idea. It was just a really bad idea, but we knew enough that it should probably work. But this was stock seatbelt, wore a helmet, hope for the best, kind of expected.
Like just 3-point.
Yeah,
grandma's
it was a stock
seat.
Literally, we had bought it off Facebook Marketplace, did nothing to it other than pull the airbag. And I hit that thing going about 75. We jumped 145 feet, and it started to nose, but at the same time, like that's just you're definitely putting we put probably too much risk into that one.
Yeah.
But came out okay. So that's one of those, rather be lucky than good, and don't do that again unless we have a roll cage. That was Trav's first words out of his mouth. You can't do that unless you have a roll cage. And I'm like, well, it turns out you can, but you shouldn't.
Yeah. Did you have any thought behind that, like, disable the airbags, or like, because sometimes you can lock yourself in a seat if you recline back and lock the seatbelt?
Yeah, so those are the two things that we'll always do. We actually were, some of the guys sitting here that you can't see, Josh, it was his first time jumping a car, so we were running him through like, all right, recline the seat back and lock it forward, your seatbelt will lock in. It's kind of like a harness, as close as you can get.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the little tactics, and then definitely pulling the airbag, because I've been hit in the face with the airbag a few times, and it's not fun when you
even if you're like prepared for it to kind of just move your hands, because that sucks too when your hands get caught up in the airbag.
Well, and see, to that point, when we had a long run out, and there was a bunch of sagebrush and different potholes and things, so it was still like land, and now you've got to drive, assuming that the car still has steering. So there was a lot going into that one that that's if you watch a lot of my jumps, it's the first and only one. I'm not a big guy on test runs. I'm not a big guy on practice. If something feels completely wrong, I will stop. But other than that, if it's slightly off, I'll still say, well, this might work. Either way, it'll be a show. So let's go.
Man, that is freaking ballsy. You're just really throwing it to the wind on that.
Your nerves, like, if anybody looks at it and is like, oh, like, how does he do it? You get to a point, you just say you're going to go, you go. But that's the problem, is if you say you're going to go, you go. If you have to back up and try it again, it's like, man, really start thinking way too much about it.
Have you just been crashing things forever then? Or is this a new thing?
So, like, that's the funny thing, is like, everyone's like, oh, how'd you get your start? And like, I just really enjoyed. So my first driving experiences were up above my hills. I grew up in Utah. You didn't have to have a license. It was a different time. But at like 13 years old, I could go buy a car for $50. When you could buy a car for $50, that's putting age out there. But so we'd go up in the dirt roads and just go as fast as you could through the dirt roads, bouncing around, doing things. And then, I'll bet I can go faster than, you get a buddy up there. I bet I can go faster than you. I bet I can do this faster than you. And then next thing you know, you just keep jumping and crashing stuff. And
kind of just like a start of like a rally career.
Yeah, other than I can't drive for beans, but I'll go really fast at something and be like, this is going to suck.
I'll hold it wide open long enough.
Yeah, I bet I can go further than you and crash this better.
Yeah.
Usually pretty good at that.
So I imagine them putting you in something really fast is just exponentially crazier.
Yeah.
Because you're used to these slower vehicles.
100%.
The Crown Vic.
Worst idea we ever had was the offshore boat racing we did last year. Like, I had never driven a boat. Trav had never throttled a boat. But let's jump in and see what we can do as far as, and when I say I've never driven a boat, that's not like I've never driven a power boat. I had never driven a boat. Like, not towing skiers, not towing boaters. I had never driven a boat. I got in the power boat the first time. I'm like, the steering wheel's on the wrong side. And the owner just looks at us and he goes, that's all boats. And I'm like, Where's the steering wheel? Let's go.
And this is not just a boat. This is like a high-powered
Yeah, I mean, we were, and to qualify all that, like we were the ARCA series of offshore power racing. Like we weren't the top guys. Trav raced that, was he actually won a world championship there, but arguably a lot sketchier. And the Twin Cats, they have a little bit better balance where we're in a V-bottom, and the V-bottom, you don't get to relax because it's just throwing you back and forth the entire time. So it's called chime walking when it gets really bad and starts bouncing you back and forth. And you're hitting speeds on a really, really good day. You're 100 and just capping over 100. But on the water, that's really fast. And if you've never driven a boat, that's terrifying.
Yeah, and it doesn't, like, a boat traction feels so different than, like, a vehicle with traction.
Yeah,
like a turn feels like it doesn't make sense.
Well, and so with a boat, too, you hit your marks. Your marks don't really change. Water's constantly moving, so you don't get to relax. You don't get a deep breath. Okay, here comes this corner. I'm going to be good. It's, well, the last time this corner was great. Nope, there's a huge wave. We had a swell, and now we're 6 ways to Sunday. Knocked my head. Like, there was one race. You hear the announcer go over the live feed. He's like, and Twisted V, that was the name of the boat. Twisted V, they're about a quarter mile off course. We had come up off a corner. I hit my head against the side, knocked myself out for a split second, and I come to, and Trav's, where are you going? And I literally don't know. I think I just got knocked out. And he's like, just laughs, full throttle ahead, and figured it out. But it's like, the buoy's that way, go. All right.
How does it work with two people driving then? So is he just like helping you, or what is he doing?
So he's in charge of gas and brake.
Okay.
So that's terrifying in and of itself. I'm literally just steering, but he's in charge of gas, brake, ballast, trim tabs. So he's got his hands full of trying to make
the technical side,
making sure the boat's flying, forward and backwards. They're trying to fly level, trying to keep the boat in the water while not adding too much weight that we're slow. Like his whole job is very complicated. My one is like, don't kill us. And
how'd you come to the decision of him being that? Because arguably he's one of the best drivers in the world.
There was no reason
for him not to be on the steering wheel is surprising.
He hates not driving, and the one thing that got him was it's backwards in a boat. So when you're going to save something in a car, it's completely opposite in a boat. So when it's turning one way, you turn the opposite way of what you do in a car. And he's like, I don't want to learn that bad habit. You drive.
Huh. That's an interesting reason to...
That was the only reason.
I'm
Other
sure
than
he
that,
was panicking.
Because he drove like the Supercat or the Class 1s, you fix those the same way. So he drove those and he was fine. But yeah, the V-bottoms, where if it's pitching one way, you turn against what you think would be right to save it. And that's when he's like, I don't want to learn that bad habit. You drive.
That's weird. I don't think I could handle that either. That would...
When you're putting a lot of trust into someone that we both don't... Like, we both came to we trust each other enough, but it was interesting. If you watch the live or like the in-boat footage, it's both of us just yelling at each other, do better, quit sucking, we're going to die. And yeah, it's terrifying.
And the boat owner was probably even more terrified.
Well, we were racing against him, and he's like, I just hope they finish.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, ended up second behind him in the world just by dumb luck. So
just by pure lack of...
It's well, we both have self-preservation, but we definitely put that on check as to, all right, well, we got to beat these people, so let's go.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of those guys are like, just, I'll just kind of do it as like a hobby, and you guys are like, I'm going to win this thing.
Well, no, that's the funny thing is there's like, there's 8 to 10 boats, so it's not a huge class, but everybody out there is dead serious, and it's a race series for sure. Like, everybody takes it very, very serious. But to that point, like, everybody's high-fiving after the race. And as I discovered, it was like, we didn't die. Everyone's like, yes, let's go. Let's go hit the bar. Like, we live to see another one. And, I mean, boats flipping up. My first race, the guy behind us, he came up too steep on a jump, tripped, broke his boat in half, ended up sinking with a broken femur. And, like, the divers had to come and say, like, the consequences are high. And
the race happened last weekend, and same deal.
100%.
Guy went up in the air, comes down on the side of his boat, and the thing's just blowing apart.
Well, yeah, and the Cat 1, the ex-insurance boat, he just caught wind underneath his boat, came straight up, flipped right over. Like, the consequences are high.
This was like 5 days ago.
Yeah, like every race, there was one of those. And, it's terrifying. Like crashing in a car, bad. Crashing in a boat, bad and worse.
Yeah, the whole being in something in water is definitely a lot scarier of a situation.
Having guys that are like their job is helicopter divers, and that's part of your race, and you can't race until you have those guys in the air. It kind of puts something a little bit in your head of like, I don't want to think about crashing, and that's why I think it was so scary for me. If I didn't pay attention, I like crashing things. It doesn't really bother me. It's kind of fun for me. That was the one thing I didn't want to crash. So to that point, it just scared me genuinely.
It was probably a little more expensive than most things to crash as well.
And that, like, I'm like, A, the bank account's not going to afford this. B, I've already done the dunker test and hated that. So they flip you upside down the boat and like, hey, this is like, make sure you can get out of the boat and you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I hated that. So I'm like, as I was told, it's like getting punched in the face by someone like Mike Tyson and then trying to figure out how to do that. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't like the mild test. So if I've got to do this other deal, if this happens in a real race, it's a bad day.
Yeah, 170 to a dead stop and then upside down underwater.
Trying to find
all at the same time.
Yeah, trying to find your air hose and just
which way's up.
Yeah, if the guy next to me is okay or knocked out and trying to get, like, there was just so much. And I was like, oh, hopefully we don't crash.
Yeah. What's your deal with limos, though? Why do you have such a fixation on those? Because you had the off-road one. You've jumped them.
Yeah, the limos come from, that's an upbringing thing. I was born into a Cadillac family. So family collected Cadillacs growing up. Like, I have a birthright car. My first car ever was a 1938 Cadillac LaSalle. My brother's was a 1963 Cadillac Eldorado Baritz. My other brother was a 1968 Cadillac Coupe de Ville. So that was, like, our dad bought us cars. This is your car. You're 1 year old.
Mobsters?
He just genuinely likes Cadillacs.
Were they all black?
No, man. Like, I have a blue, yellow, or the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. But it was one of those just really, really like Cadillacs. And fortunately or unfortunately, Cadillacs make some weird cars. They make hearses. They make limos. And so as we grew up, back again when you could buy a car dirt cheap, we just got into all of them. It didn't matter if it was a limo, it was a Coupe de Ville, Eldorado, any of that. We were into it. So we started just collecting these old Cadillacs, and then I have a 1950 Cadillac. It was a Fleetwood. We cut the back off of, made it into a truck. This was the first car I bought myself. Mm-hmm. And like cleanest hot rod, super, like we did all the body work, made this thing into like, we called the El Cadmino. So now it's a coupe with a truck bed.
Yeah.
Like the coolest car we spent so much time on. And then we bought a limo. We chopped the top on it, painted it like American flag and drove that thing around. One cost us, arm and a leg. Other one we got for free because some guy owed us $600. That Cadillac limo is the most attention-grabbing car we've ever got, and arguably the most fun because you just pack a bunch of friends off and you just go drive around. So that's kind of where that fixation started. And then I found a cheap hearse on Facebook Marketplace. Thought, hey, if I put a roll cage in this and jump it, that could be kind of fun. My buddy Nate Wessel spent all day building the jumped it, got the world record. And then this became the small snowball that then developed, that just kept rolling. Because 10 days after that, Trav was filming for Jimkhana. And he goes, you're probably not going to drive the limo home, but I know you have a lot of them. If you want to come and jump one in Jimkhana, head on out.
And was that the one where they filmed in Miami, or was that?
No, that one was Annapolis. So that was the first one. Yep, that was 2020. And I just remember the guys from Hoonigan tripping the whole time. And we go do the test run with Trav in the side-by-side, and he's like, all right, here's the side-by-side. Go test this thing as many times as you need. And I'm like, I watched you do it. We're good. Go get in the car and let's get this over with. It's getting dark.
Could have went and beat on it side-by-side just a little bit.
Right. I don't like to break other people's stuff. I'd rather just break the car I'm in and call it a day.
Side-by-sides are pretty guaranteed to break, too, once you start sending them.
100%. And they jump kind of different. They jump pretty nose heavy. And I was like, it's everything flies about the same up to 70 miles an hour, but I got a feeling this limo's not going to really be comparable. So I don't want to get any bad habits. Let's just go for it. Jumped it the first time, drove away smooth. Jumped it the second time, and like I just wanted to like get my hands up and kind of panicked because I went a little further. And then so I'm like, all right, one more time. I'm like, yeah, go for it. Like it's still running. How? But yeah, go for it. So third time, got my thumb out. But then at that point, it bent the axle, and when we bent the axle, it smashed the oil pan, and that car was done. They're like, just get it out of here. So we got it out of the backyard at Pastrana Land. And that just became kind of the snowball effect that, well, that went okay. Let's try this, and let's try this. And if we cut the back off of one and then fill it full of water, what might that do?
Yeah.
And so it's just been one of those that I guess that, like, if you were to start kind of from a beginning, that was kind of the genesis of where my stupidity or good times started, and call them both and had a good time.
Well, and then on a Gymkhana deal, you did it on a national stage of probably, 80 million views or something, 50 million views or something by now.
Oh, yeah. Like, 2020 is great for anything online. And then, when that one dropped, it was,
And his first one was like a big thing.
Exactly. So we had an attentive audience globally. And it showed, content was getting consumed right and left. And then when you produce and do something as epic as his first Gymkhana, which very different from, the previous ones. This one had a lot of jumping the car and just, some different things that way.
He's more of a jump car type of guy.
Exactly. And so it's just, it put a different flavor onto something that, Ken built and did amazing with, but it was just a different style of it, showing, hey, like, it's not better or worse. It's just different. And I think, and then we have a tentative audience, so it went great. And, Trav being the driver that he is, and then allowing me and, a bunch of his friends to just be in the credits of it was really, really cool. And it's just been one of those, well, that gave me, like, if no one else saw it, it just gave me a boost of confidence to say, that worked. Yeah, I could do this again. And
this could be a real thing.
Yeah, like we might have something here. So let's just keep going and see where it takes us.
Are you in talks with Scotto about a crash Khana for you?
Well, so we were just gonna call it Jimkhana, but spelled J-I-M. Yeah. And it's just a lot of rollovers and crashing. Yeah,
there's just a lot of crash stuff.
Just say, like, I don't know, with them they usually have two, like, or one backup car. I'm like, well, you're gonna need to build more, but the car will be cheaper.
It's a much smaller budget. They'll just put some like loud exhaust sounds in it, so it sounds like it's some serious hot rod. Yeah, I'll be curious to see what the future of those Gymkhanas are. I'm sure you're got inside information that you can't tell as much, but
well, Scotto talked about it today, in like in his post where he's doing some transition things right now, and it is full steam ahead.
There's a future for it.
There's a future for it. That's all I really know and can say, other than he's just like, we've got some ideas, and I think I get to crash something, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they end up doing. They got a couple cool cars in that lineup, like that. The Pegasus car is pretty awesome, that Porsche.
Yep.
So that'll be cool. Man, I definitely need you to crash some more stuff, because that's where it really comes. That's where it really comes cool.
Well, there's a talk about Saturday at Cletus and Cars. Hasn't been solidified. They've got to have a meeting tomorrow, but there's a monster truck jump. And there was a couple people like, we got to send a particular style vehicle over that.
There is a pretty good monster truck jump there.
It is great. I went and looked at the angles of it today and looked at the run-in.
Broke out the calculator.
Did my... this will work. I think we got something. So we'll see. I know there was a handful of safety concerns that if we can come to an agreement on, crowd safety and, and things that way, we may have a stunt coming up on Saturday. Literally, that I got to the track today for practice, and then I didn't care about racing anymore when they said that it might be like, Cowboy, you're up, man. Like, because I'm racing Cowboys Drone this weekend. At that point where they said you might be able to jump a Crown Vic, all racing anything. I was like, I really don't care about this anymore. Like, if we can just focus on this and I can do that. Oh, this be the best weekend ever.
Your brain went more to jumping than...
Oh, and like I came up with like, if we do this, like, I don't want to give it all away, but
this will be out after.
Well,
that
yeah,
anyways.
but if it doesn't work this weekend, then I want to come back to the Freedom
Yeah.
Factory, or when they do the Freedom 500, and probably do it then. But it involves a trailer and some other things that, if it all works out, it'll be awesome.
He's got quite a few Crown Vics there. I'm sure he wouldn't notice one crashed.
Well, no, and that was the best part because he's like, when I jumped the Buick at LS Fest, I mean, arguably to flat. So
yeah, and that was a huge distance.
That was a big distance, and this one is a big drop. So it's coming out of turn 1 or
you're gonna
3
be
and
high
4.
up in the air.
So it'll be a lot, like it'll be probably the same distance, if not higher. So coming down too flat, like as much as it, like I'm gonna live forever, it hurts. Like I'd still like, I'd like to live forever and not have as much back pain, or not have to see a massage therapist as much. So one of those, like, they're like, well, we have, and then I looked over and saw their graveyard of Crown Vics, and I'm like, yeah, we can just put those out there. So that was kind of the solution to that. But then adding a couple of, couple pieces of flair to that whole stunt, and I think we have something. If as long as we can pass through safety, Saturday should be pretty cool. And if not, we'll hopefully see it at the Freedom 500.
Yeah, that would be awesome, because then a little more planning could probably take place, and
yeah, I mean,
a little bit more pre-thought maybe. Maybe they get some boxes or something you can land into.
Yeah, in best case, like less planning's better planning for me. It's like, what are you doing right now? Come on over. All right, let's go. So
that's true. I did message you 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, case in point, I'm like, all right, be there in 10.
Yeah.
I think it took 15. Sorry, that check took a little longer, but
that's fine. I'm not worried about that. All right, guys, I wanted to interrupt this real quick to say if you enjoy what we're doing here, I only ask one thing. Hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. It helps us grow, and we can keep this thing going. Now, let's get back to the podcast. Thank you guys so much for the continued support. Well, I guess I was also going to ask, because you guys are doing a van race too, right?
Yeah, so the Van Prix, it kind of got shut down in some other race series, but I talked to Cletus. All he said was, come and do a Van Prix at my race. I want to see it. I love the van racing. Like it'll be interesting. So the best is the vans are not, they're the back to the old school, like the old school level of what this race was, where it was, let's get a bunch of Crown Vics. There's not a lot of safety in them. It's not a lot going on, but now we've got top heavy minivans. So going through that kidney bean, I did some practice laps today, and where they have like the turning points, those are jumps. So I'm just thinking, I'm like, tomorrow's going to be interesting, because if you come around that corner going hard left, that van's going over.
Yeah, if it gets unsettled just enough.
Just enough. It'll do it. I've rolled plenty of minivans over, so there's the high possibility you're going to see some carnage. And bought all of these from Facebook. I bought all of the minivans when I landed Tuesday here at 3:30, and then we were done at noon today, which is Thursday. So within a day and a half, we have 8 minivans. If you think I checked them at all, they're dead wrong. Like I know 3 or 4 of them overheat. Half of them have flat tires. We're gonna throw some air in, throw some coolant in it, and then see what happens. There's a couple. We're all gonna draw from a hat. That's what van you get. And if someone gets the lemon or the grenade, that's the luck of the draw.
Is there a standout in your van choice, do you think? Is there one?
There's
one
a
that's,
Chevy Venture that, like, all of them are Grand Caravans or Chrysler Town and Countries. We've got the Chevy Venture, and this Chevy Venture, it's a runner, because we drove that one the furthest. Yeah, that one made it all the way from Lakeland down to Freedom Factory.
Oh, so, that's a trip.
Yeah, it was a haul. The rest is when we trailered, but that one we got one trailer and we got an extra guy. Let's go. So drove it all the way back. I saw that thing reach speeds of 85 miles an hour. It's a little over speed limit, but hey, had to test things, and
I don't know if it'll make that happen on a bank, but
yeah, if anybody hits 85 miles an hour tomorrow, that's just because they smash into a wall and it's just bouncing off a rev limiter.
But, maybe if you push it with another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Something along those lines.
But I've never raced. I mean, we've done the nitro crosses in the minivans. It'll be really interesting to see how these things handle on pavement. I've raced front wheel drive, and that's a different experience altogether. But now you've got top heavy, gutless minivans going into that kidney bean and racing, doing practice laps today. I was even scratching my head of like, I'm bouncing in a Crown Vic that's low to the ground. We have top heavy minivans. We're putting one over like that. We're more than likely.
The Crown Vics get sketchy. I mean, there's been times where that was, I mean, the Rangers get the most sketchy.
Yeah.
Those are instant rollovers.
Those are instant rollovers, and you've got lightweight rear-wheel drive. Now we have lightweight front-wheel drive. So all traction where traction's given, and then just bouncing that rear end up and down. So it'll be really interesting to see how tomorrow goes. Anybody's best guess, but my best guess is one of them goes over, and then, or we again, we haven't checked tires. This isn't like the full set of Nittos that you have on the Crown Vics. This is, as bald as can be, belts showing.
Yep.
Marketplace, like best we could get.
Do you think any of them would pass the moose test? You ever see that?
No, like none of these would pass any test other than they're a pile of crap, and that I can confirm. Yeah, so that's kind of how that went. And one guy was trying to tell me, like, oh, the motor runs really good. I'm like, you're missing the headliner. There's holes through every fender, and the entire bottom of this is rusted out. You, like, don't tell me it's a nice van. Just here's what I'll give you, and if you'll accept it, we're good.
Got a family? You need a van? Like trying to sell you on it.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, I grew up in used cars. Like, you don't need to tell me any more than I already know.
What would you avoid on stunts? Is there anything that you're kind of a no-go on? 2 wheels, maybe 3 wheels, anything along those lines?
I mean, shoot, 2 weeks ago.
In the air.
I did break.
Aircraft.
I did separate my shoulder trying to jump over a limo on a pit bike. And I just learned I'm not great at pit bikes. But, I also went to another race, and that's where I coined the phrase and didn't really mean to. Trav was just like, you crashed here, you did this. And I was probably knocked a little senseless and just uttered out like, I'm just here for the crash reel, man. And so from there, it's just kind of been more of a lifestyle than a statement. And I just keep kind of rolling with that. I'm not good on 2 wheels, but in the last Jimkhana, I jumped Trav's car on a Honda Helix, like into a pond, and that went okay. I have enough stability on 2 wheels to do it.
A pond seems pretty...
Yeah,
you can't really land poorly into a pond.
You can when it's 3 feet deep.
Oh, that doesn't help. I was gonna say, because I feel like landing in a pond, it always looks like he landed how he wanted.
Yeah, no, that thing.
It wasn't a pond; it was a puddle.
Yeah, it was better than pavement, but not great. Anyway, I can't say yet because I haven't been faced with it. I'll let you know if we get to the point where it's a hard no. I don't know how to fly a plane, but I also don't really know how to drive. I'll still do that. So
yeah, you keep showing up at these Crown Vic races and you say you can't drive.
Yeah.
But
I won one of them. Well, no, that was front wheel drive. The first time they did the winter warm up, I won the C class. So can't really say I won, but I didn't lose. I wasn't the slowest guy there that day.
Pretty cool. They put you with Cowboy on that deal.
Well, that was the best part. He had no idea what this race was. And I just texted him after meeting him at Trav's the other day. I go, hey, we're going to race. We just raced Class 11s last week at Nitrocross. And I go, hey, a couple weeks ago, I'm like, hey, we're going to race this together. Would you want to go out and have you ever heard of the Freedom Factory? You have no idea. Hey, tell you what, we've got Crown Vic race. There's this guy. We're all going to be there. Should be a good time. Do you want to do it? And he goes, yep, sign me up. So that was exactly how the conversation went. I don't really, I've raced with him once. Good dude. And, we hung out with him, back in August, and, seemed to get on all right. And from there, it's just been, now we're racing Class 11s together, and just really...
Class 11s, or?
Sorry, the Baja Bugs.
The Baja Bugs,
So we raced the Baja Bugs out at Nitrocross. That was the first time I had raced that series was last week, and both him and I... he had a wicked crash. We came off 6 wide into the first jump, and one guy got a little squirrely, got into him, that put him straight into the wall, rolled the guy behind him. It was chaos. If you haven't seen that video, go just look up.
Yeah, on your Instagram, I'd imagine.
No, yeah, it's everywhere. But
Wilkie, I think Wilkie posted.
Wilkie posted it. He posted
Wilkie,
he posted it. I got out of that. I was up front in the grid and then got a good start. So luckily got out of that one unscathed. But I think almost everybody else in the field, minus 3 of us, got out of that one okay. But
wow.
2 laps later, so he's out of the race. 2 laps later, I'm going for a turn and get hit that then sends me kind of like, it was like a right on my rear right quarter. So you can imagine that sends you a little scawampus and rolled the bug over, and that put me out. So I was like, man,
There were only 2 guys left at that point?
right? No, like it's a field of 9, 2 of us rolled over.
Okay.
And, but that's what I was like, oh man, like he goes for broke and I'm kind of the same way. So we'll be a good team.
Yeah.
It's going to be definitely a wreckers before checkers, but we'll try and finish.
Those seem cool to drive. That seems like a good class because they're not like overpowered or anything, and they're kind of just like little.
It's my level. It's dumb enough to be awesome is kind of the way I look at it. And it's a crowd favorite for sure. Like definitely this last weekend. I mean, that race definitely has more views than anything else. I mean, granted, we had some vicious crashes. Like it completely destroyed Cowboy's car, which that's not awesome. He got out okay, but like it rung his bell a little bit, and that's one of those like it's not the same amount of safety, but we're not going the same amount of speed, so it kind of works out. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, yeah, to your point, it's really fun. It's just that's a good beginner class, and I'm there for a good time. Like if there's the whole like. It's all about the good times, not about being good, and that's what I kind of show up to anything for. So I had the most fun probably racing that as I have anything at Nitrocross, minus maybe minivans, but I get to do that this weekend, so it all works out.
Yeah, I'd imagine ringing a bell of a MMA fighter is not easy feat at all.
Not easy.
I'd imagine he's pretty well trained to push through those kind of situations.
Dude can take a lick, but this one was a hit. Like he hard right straight into a wall. Like that's a dead stops are always bad. I mean, it hit still rolled over, but that's an initial dead stop to then backward inertia. And those are when you see that, like that's when you know you've taken a hit. Even when I jumped that station wagon, yeah, it was a hit, but there was still forward momentum and never a dead stop. Yep. So one of those, it still kind of works out.
I think that's what Jeremy Clarkson would say. He said it's not the speed that gets you, it's the sudden stop.
Sudden stop, 100%. Like, we do a race down in Tennessee called the L Rock, like the Last Cast is Race of Champions. That was a minivan race, and oddly enough,
more minivans.
Yeah, more minivans. There was a jump there. It was the muddiest race you could imagine, and there's a jump there called the Last Cast Leap. It's not big. It's 35 feet, and to that point,
here it seems like we got. Oh, you can talk into that microphone.
So we have stripper Josh.
We have more people out.
Yeah, we just chime in since I kind of had previous experience.
This is his race. Yeah, honestly.
So go ahead and finish your story, Jim. Then once you're done, I'll kind of add a little extra to it.
No, actually, he's cut off right there because I know where that story's going to go, and we don't need to tell the rest of that. So that story can stop. But
so for people just, if you're actually watching, which you should be just listening anyways, there are people here that aren't on camera, but they got microphones.
So yeah, and to that point,
I can go sneak around with you if you want.
No, we don't need
to. You can if you want to, but people are listening anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, so that race, we'll just stop as soon as I get done, and he doesn't need to chime in anymore. But so that race, I'm in a minivan, and there's a jump there. It's not big. It's like 35, 40 feet. It's called the Last Cast Leap, but it was extremely muddy. It was been raining all day. I kind of looked at everybody's favorite redneck, old Hubert, said, Hubert, I know I'm not going to make that jump, but I'd really like to try. And it'll be entertaining either way. And he goes, next lap, give her everything you can. So, all right. And, it was one of those, like, it was like, oh, he missed it by a mile. Like, well, yeah, like, I'm dumb enough to know better still. I was going to say too young to care, but I'm kind of old now.
So in the race, you're going around and you can actually not hit the jump.
Oh, the jump was never part of the race.
Okay, it was just a rogue move.
You went around it, or you like if it was a normal track, yes, it would be.
Yeah.
Like there was a straight shot at it, but pinned wide open, you were maybe 30 miles an hour. That jump required about 40 miles an hour to clear it. So I line up for it. Hit it with everything that van will kind of do, but I'm just spinning. It didn't really matter. Went up straight to basically the transition of no, we didn't hit anything. I basically hit the face of the landing at the very bottom.
He landed where the ground met the landing ramp. I don't think it could have went any worse. And this is an over-under jump. Like originally the track was meant to go, you could either jump the jump and knock a lap off, or you could go through the middle of it. And Jim hit what needed to be 45 miles an hour, doing about 16.
That's not far off.
No, it was on red line in fourth gear.
I was going to say, the speedo said I was going 60, so.
The wheel speed was
But
Just blah, 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 like
this story gets so much better. Go ahead, Jim, once you're done.
So anyway, at that point, I knocked myself pretty stupid that one. Like I hit hard enough, it bent the steering wheel back, and that was just because I didn't let go. I definitely hit my head, had a big old goose egg on the side of my knee. It was pretty vicious, and that was one of those, like, just said I was going to do something. They let me do it, and so we went for it. And definitely, like this isn't one of those things I like to talk about all that much, but it was a real thing, and this is where I've definitely learned, even after the Montana stuff. I have a girlfriend at this point that's like, if you jump anything without a roll cage from now on, like, we're done. And one of those, like, I got lucky, way too lucky, a lot, and I can't go back to that. Like, I can't go back to jumping things without roll cages and things like that. That was even like when I talked to Garrett today, he's like, well, yeah, we got to find one with like one of the good cages. And I go, thank you. Yeah, I can't do this in one of the minivans we have. She'll let me race because she knows I'm dumb enough to survive. But if it's jumping anything or doing any kind of stunt, like I can't do that anymore. I've taken too many licks to the head. And as it turns out, they catch up with you. So one of those, like, I learned my lesson, and now it has to be full cage ahead. And that's what it, like,
that's probably for the best.
Oh, 100%. Like, I'm now just taking normal safety precautions, or like the minimal safety precautions that a average human should. Yeah. And so it's been good that way. But that was, I mean, there's been that one and a handful of others where, we took a lick, got lucky, and that luck's going to run out eventually. So we're upping safety. And like, I did that jump in Vegas, where I tried to barrel a limo through.
Tried to go through a limo.
Try was the best, or we tried to take a limo through two RVs in a barrel roll.
Yeah.
And try was the key word there. We didn't know really what was going to happen, and with that, when I hit the RVs, it was just hard stop. Like, it caught that limo, wouldn't let it spin anymore, and that was kind of the end of that.
But you were pretty high above the RV. Like, you almost cleared it completely, it seemed like.
Yeah, and at that point, we had asked safety, hey, can you back these up another 30 feet? The problem with that was we were too close to the crowd at that point, and we couldn't back the ramp up because it was bolted into the pavement. So we were kind of like, well, we don't have best case scenario, but I'm not going to go any slower. Mm-hmm. Let's just kind of see what happens. Again, you can watch that video on like our YouTube, the channel 199. I explain it is they kind of go, how do you test something like this? And I just laugh, and this is the test. We've never done it. We have no idea what's going to happen. We have some good theories and some good guesses. Again, our napkin math is usually pretty good, but that's all this is at this point. So we're going to hit it at this speed. We might clear the limos, or we might clear the RVs completely, but let's try it out. And so, yeah, that's where I remember looking over, because it just caught the rear end of the limo, and I'm sitting there looking at the top of the RV, is like, top of this pretty clean.
Yeah.
This is going to suck. I'm about to go get hit.
You went right over them.
Yeah. So
At least the first one.
Well, the first one, it caught the rear end, and that's where I think we could have got a full barrel roll, but it just caught the limo and stalled that spin for sure. So,
did you notice yourself trying to steer into a barrel roll? Like, you could somehow turn it in there like an RC car?
No, yeah, like, come on. Nope. That's just going to work. Keep spinning. And it just one of those, like, didn't work at all. I mean, the crash was pretty epic. It landed straight upside down, skidded to a stop. And, but anyway, like that. So that whole story and that whole point, that was one of those I put a full funny car cage in that. And that was because I've taken too many hits with not enough safety. And for this one, where we knew I was going upside down, it could have been one of those where it came up, was completely upside down, tripped on the RVs, and then slammed me down super hard right on.
Yeah, it could have used itself as like leverage almost.
Exactly. So it would have been, forward propulsion into slamming into the ground. And I'm like, I don't know what that looks like, but these guys, funny car guys are going pretty fast, and I've seen those roll over a handful of times. So if it's good enough for those guys,
yeah,
this is as best I can do, and let's see what this does.
Yeah, because we were talking, me and JH, when he was on, I was asking him about like who builds those cages, because it's not just like a regular like car cage, like it's like a wreck, like it's going to be in a wreck type of cage. It's a little different than like our race cars that like, maybe you'll be in a wreck and like you kind of know they're going to bounce off a wall if they do wreck. They don't really do anything too crazy. Like a drift cage, you have to be prepared for cars T-boning you, but you're kind of in a different realm than all of that.
Yeah, so what it ends up being is almost like you build a shroud, like they just, as bad as this sounds, it's almost like a coffin around you, but it's built out of steel that prevents you from going in an actual wooden box, so it actually works out.
It almost is like one of those deals that they use to fill up semi-truck tires.
Yeah.
Where it's just like a halo overhead.
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably a better way to put it, as a halo versus a coffin. Sorry, I don't know why my mind went there, but that, is it just kind of, because it's shaped kind of like that. But yeah, on this one, it was one of those, I looked in the car, I'm like, oh, this is the safest I've ever been by far. And even like I've been taking steps towards safety, like the station wagon jump. I go, hey, I need a good cage. This can't be my typical, like previously it had been maybe a hoop behind the driver's side, and I had like a forward bar from the, on the drive, like through the driver's door. But now it's, all right, nope, we have forward bars coming down. We're gonna do an X up on the roof minimum, or like even on this last one where it was the full funny car cage, where, you take enough hits to the head, it's diminishing returns. So it is sorry, this took a downward slope, but
No.
it is one of those, like, it is part.
This is the reasons people shouldn't be doing
100%.
Don't try to replicate this.
Yeah, and then to that point, like the safety sponsor that I have with Simpson, like those guys are amazing. I scratch a helmet, they'll send me a new one. Like they don't want to take any chances of, we don't know where that scratch came from. You might have hit, you might have dropped it, or you could have hit your head on any kind of this, that, or the other. And it's one of those, I'm sure I know their helmets can take that lick, but it's one of those too, they don't want to tempt that theory. And so they're very, very good about, keeping safety. And I always say I'm going to live forever, and they're definitely a key player in that whole theory.
Well, for people that don't know, if you wreck your car on a drag strip, the NHRA and the track officials are supposed to take your helmet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's part of the rules, is they take the helmet and they cut your harnesses, because you're not supposed to reuse either of those things.
Then I should get rid of a handful of helmets and definitely not. There's some harnesses that should never be used again, but
they're probably okay.
We have different rules.
they're probably okay,
yeah.
But it is part of the rules. I've seen people hide their helmets because they're like, I just bumped my car into the wall. I didn't roll 6 times, but
I didn't even know it was that bad. But yeah,
anytime you're in like a on-track incident, I guess they're supposed to take your safety equipment.
I used to drag race in high school, and other than that, I haven't really done much of it. So that makes sense. I fully understand that, like that whole logic. I should probably just hang up every helmet that I have.
Hey, if they're going to send you more.
Yeah. Well, no, and to that point, it's kind of gotten to that, is they're like, if I do like the helmet I was wearing when I did the station wagon jump, that's hanging up on a wall now.
Yeah.
That will never be used again for anything other than just looking pretty. And then the helmet that I have right now, their helmets are just awesome. Like, it's funny. I raced the Baja Bugs. My buddy that has, we won't name the competitor, but he like picks my one up and he's like, oh, this is so good. I'm like, yeah. They make some really, really good stuff. And I've put a lot more thought and money behind safety. Like a handful of these things, I was wearing they were the fire retardant Dixon flannels, but just wear one of those and be like, fire suit, it's close enough, this should work. And then
Safe enough, yeah, it's good.
Literally rolled the van over and caught it on fire. So
it's just pump 93.
Yeah, we're
not
good.
That crazy.
We got like half a tank. It should burn out quick.
It's not like methanol or something crazy, it's fine.
At least you can see the fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, what are you up to now? Because I know you're linked up with Pastrana and those guys, and you're doing all of that kind of
And that to that point, if you've heard other voices or mumbling in the background, that's because we're all here for Channel 199 with the Van Prix. That's what we got going on tomorrow before we go and race the 2.4 hours of Les Mullets. And that the Channel 199 has really just been a group of friends coming together, and we've all been hanging out, and now we're just trying to, you know, keep the good times rolling. Racing can get less serious and more fun in that aspect, and that's kind of the whole goal is, like I said it earlier, we're all about, I mean, we've got good dudes that can drive, and we've got dudes that are good, but the epitome of all that is if it's not about the good times, then you've lost kind of everything that racing and going into any of these activities is about, and that's what the whole Channel 199 is about. So yeah, that's the whole goal, is to kind of level up action sports, but level it up in a direction that it was going, and we've kind of felt like it might have taken a left turn or right turn, and we want to just kind of get it back on track to being positive, having as much fun as possible with good people, and just doing stuff with your buddies that scares each other, but you all high five after and just say, that was awesome. Who's next?
So your plan for like the next at least like year going forward, just say for next year, is focus on Channel 199, travel around to these like events like, you know, Freedom Factory type of stuff, put on shows for people for hire. Is that how that works?
It's literally like we would all do this with no cameras rolling and just for the good time.
You shouldn't do it for free, though. You really shouldn't.
But it turns out, no, the only problem is it just costs money. Yeah. So
it's hard on you.
That doesn't matter. Like, as hard as it is on anybody, it's about the good time. And that, like, this is where all of these degenerates that are sitting with me now thrive, this is like, the quote goes in the group is, oh, man, that's a horrible idea. What time? Like, sign me up. I'll be there. I will come running. And that's this whole group of people that I have with me, and we got some more showing up later today. Anyway, like, to that point, it just, like, it costs money to keep the kind of the wheels turning, and so we're trying to, you know, just keep that going, not, like, trying to make money, just trying to not lose a lot of it, and just have as much fun doing it as possible. So that's where that bottom line comes in. And
I'm no business manager for you or anything, but I hope you're getting paid by some of these events that you're going to. Like, I hope, you know, you show up at SEMA for a 30,000 person crowd, and
I'm going to be honest with you,
helping you out.
LS Fest completely out of pocket. Just wanted to do it. They gave me the opportunity, and I just genuinely enjoy jumping cars. So as long as I can find, you know, the help along the way to do it, then yes. And yeah, we can hopefully build it into something that if it is entertaining for enough people, then yeah, like if we're helping somebody that doesn't have the opportunities that we may have, or doesn't want to take the risks that we do. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing, is we will take that risk that someone might find entertaining, but would never do themselves. And to that point, we're testing different things and trying different things, and hopefully there's some value to that we can keep this whole thing carrying and going, and that's kind of the whole goal behind it. So
for the next year also, are you doing more of what are they called? What Pastrana does, the Nitro Circus, Nitro Cross,
I'm signed up to race through the end of March, which are the series finale is in Vegas for Nitro Cross. I'll be racing the Baja Bugs. We may dabble in some ARA, which is American Rally Association. Okay. Still kind of up in the air on that. But the most fun we have is when it's this group of guys and we're all at a local event. We just came from our buddy Smagical's spot up in northern Michigan, a town you've never really heard of, Tigerton, Wisconsin. Wisconsin, Tigerton, Wisconsin, at the place called Magical Retreat for the Northern Nightmare. And it's a pit bike race with just our buddies in his backyard. And that's what we really want to keep going. And that's where we really have the most fun. Or, you know, the off days at Pastrana Land where we're sitting around a table and just a bad idea comes up and we just see, like, that's literally how the hot tub jump came to fruition. It was, what if we cut the back? Well, we already did a convertible limo jump, but what if we put a tarp on the back, filled it full of water, and put some people back there? Like, what would that look like? shoot, let's try it. And the next thing you know, like we're fortunate enough to have that facility to be able to do that, but then be smart enough not to die doing it. And there's something to be said about the test jumps and the theories and things that going like that. And if we can put a smile on somebody's face that maybe, at that point in their life stuck behind a desk, then that's kind of the goal. Is it's entertaining enough for an audience to say, hey, like, those guys look like having a good fun, and we can level people up and get them to aspire to do, what they really are passionate about.
Yeah, do you look to any of the kind of guys that came before you on this, which would be like the Knoxvilles,
My idol is Spanky Spangler, and I don't know a lot of guys that know that name. He is there was Evel Knievel that was legend. Spanky Spangler, equally a legend, but just he was your right after Evel Knievel stunt guy at every local track throughout the country. If you don't know who it is, look him up. He lived to tell a tale.
I'm not aware of the name.
Yeah, he lived to tell a tale, and he did some stuff that was wild, but on that low key, just doing it for the good time. And yeah, like he hopefully to make a buck here and there to keep going to the next one. So like he's the guy. Like that guy, I watched him live as a kid, and that was like you'd see the cars stacked up, he'd jump through them and roll and do all that, and I'm like, that guy is awesome. And again, fortunate enough to see him live as a kid, and that was like I revert back to him a lot, and I get compared to him.
Spanky Spangler?
Yeah, like he was a guaranteed crash guy. There was no good outcome.
Was this on cars, two
He was
wheels?
a car guy, yeah,
okay.
yep. So he would take like what you'd see in Dukes of Hazzard, but like do it in front of an audience into a bunch of cars, and there was pyro, and like he was a good dude. So I say he's still alive. Like
wow.
I say, lived to tell a tale, and rad dude for sure.
That's pretty cool that he's still. I mean,
his son,
he's a great role model because he's still still around.
He made it, right?
He's probably a better role model than a lot.
Yeah, he made it through, and like his son followed me on Instagram, like, oh, this is the best day ever. Like this is the coolest thing, and I don't even think he knows that. So
you got to get him out for some kind of stunt or something to watch.
I do.
I don't think he's probably too old to be doing any stunts at this point.
Spanky's a little old, and then they own like a trucking company, and just good dudes.
Is there anything that, I mean, you said you haven't come across it yet, but is there, I know you were talking about water, like there's got to be something you avoid a little bit. Fire,
I'm not big on
heights. A little bit. Heights
and bees. Hate bees.
Bees
are terrifying. They wake up and choose violence.
Yeah,
like
pretty rough.
What do those things want to do other than just find you and cause pain?
Yeah.
Not a big fan. So not allergic. If one's around, this is a little embarrassing, but I was at a Boy Scout camp, actually the National Scout Jamboree. We were at the fishing pond there, and I'm sitting there, and there's this bee that's just like sitting, just buzzing me in the face, and you can tell I'm panicking. And the guy that's like the leader running the whole fishing pond there, he kind of looks at me and he's like, "It's a bee, man." And I'm like, "I know." And it like lands on me once, and I just like, I'm about to throw up, and like about to run, and he's like, "It'll go away." And literally I dropped my fishing pole and run up the hill like, I can't handle this. Don't like bees.
So, and you said Utah, so obviously snow you're pretty comfortable in then.
Yeah, snow's good. I grew up.
Pretty nice to land in snow, I'd imagine.
It's
versus
a lot softer than, say, Kentucky dirt, but yeah. Do you
have a jar of that dirt?
It's still picking it out of my race suit.
Jarred up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I've had it dry clean twice and still find clumps of it.
Keep a shelf of dirt that you've crashed into.
I should have grabbed some of the pavement from SEMA Fest too, but
there's probably some around.
I was gonna say definitely some there. Actually, that was funny. I was pulling glass. I took my hat off the next day and was pulling glass out of my hair.
And you leave the windshields in those things?
It's better than no windshield, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess you'd rather not get hit by something, but I feel like derby cars, they put like...
Well, what we're going to do is weld a metal grate, so you'll just get some... Yeah, exactly. So we'll usually do that, especially when you're going to go through something. The one issue was with this pipe ramp. If you, again, go watch the video on channel 199, you can see the dot. The dot was smaller than this microphone, and then I've got a line painted on my hood, and I'm trying to line that dot up with the line drawn on my hood, and then I've got 3 inches, so I've got 3 inches on left or right to hit this and to have it spin, or it doesn't work at all. And so to that point, I needed to be able to see, and that's why we left the windshield in. And then and then we had never tested it at night, and turns out it was dark when I did it. Visibility went down.
Yeah.
There's a comment I think I saw in the video. It was like, put your visor down. And like, seeing was pretty paramount at that point. Like, if I screw this up more than 3 inches on either way, like, we have worse of a time than, closing my eyes and just, when I'm in the air, I can't really do much at that point anyway. So,
Shit.
yeah, it was.
I feel like all your videos are just got to be high anxiety. Just like, as most viewers, like anybody watching is just like, there could probably be a test done of like, put like an Apple Watch on somebody and see how they're like, how their heart rate changes as they're watching.
It'd definitely be interesting. And then this one, like, I don't like to have a lot of people around. And then for whatever reason, it was Vegas, it's Utah. My parents don't get to come out to a lot of the things that I do. And so I was like, hey, you guys should come down. And then instantly realized how bad of an idea that was when I saw how sketchy this jump was going to be. Is my mom's like, we're just proud of him. And as she like breaks off into tears, like walks off to the other corner. My dad, he didn't care. Like, he did not care, but he's like, I'll be fine. And he'll buck up. And then I've got my girlfriend there and things like that. So those things, I know I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
But those add a level of anxiety of trying to calm them down. Then I'm like, well, what if I'm not?
My parents won't watch me drag race. My mom hates to watch me drag race. And my thing is I'm avoiding crashing. I'm trying, like, that's the kind of the goal is to not crash. I can't imagine with the goal is like best case scenario, you crash.
So
I can't imagine my parents watching that.
Well, that was the best part. And like, I know, like, you want your parents to be proud of you, but my mom, I've never been more proud of her in my entire life. She hadn't really met Trav, and first thing she says, like, we're walking by his trailer, and she goes, I go, hey, Trav, like, this is my parents. And then she goes, and they're like, oh, wow. Like, he goes, oh, hey, like, good to meet you. Are you nervous for him? And my mom just kind of shakes her head, and I'm just here for the crash reel. Like, not rehearsed, just straight first thing she says. And I was like, this is why I am your child. This is great.
Yeah, I can see where it comes from.
Yeah, like, Apple didn't fall that far from the tree because she's excited for it. And then I think even got her, like, yeah, she was really, really nervous. And I'm like, look, there's a handful of ways this could go really bad. Mm-hmm. None of those are going to happen, and I'm going to live forever. And she goes, yeah, I guess they interviewed her, like, right after that. I had no idea what they said on camera, but she goes, I gave him a back rub. He told me he's going to live forever, and he kind of tries to do what he says. Yeah. So we're good. And
call the chiropractor for Monday, and you're good to go.
I was going to say, yeah, go sit in a hot tub for 3 days, and we'll be fine.
Yeah. I know, like, Travis pretty much avoids things like that because he's broken quite a few things. I think pretty much everything.
Yep.
So he probably avoids the crashing a little bit, so he's probably good to have you around to do that for him, take some of the load off.
Yeah, that was definitely... I keep referring to that video, but all these are in there. In that interview, they were talking to him. He goes, this is a guaranteed crash. This is something I would never sign up for. Like, he goes into everything with full confidence he can land it. Yeah. I am the complete opposite. Oh, no, if I crash, here's worst case scenario. It's going to be awesome either way, so let's try it.
It can't really go much downhill if you're already prepared to crash. Like, if you go into it thinking you're not going to crash, then the crashing is the bad thing. But
I would have been a straight A student if what I do now was what school was. Like, hey, I'm going to fail, but it's going to be awesome. I would have done, I wouldn't have been a straight A student, but if that was the goal in school, I would have been awesome.
I'd imagine you're a menace on the playground.
Would have done quite well there. But yeah.
What happened with the limo that you were off-roading? Didn't it get robbed within hours? I don't even understand how that happened.
Sorry, I'm leaning back in my chair. So that one, we'll go the short and simple part of that. We came around mile marker 63 at...
Well, that was what race?
Oh, sorry. So we were at the Mint 400. It was round 2. We showed up the first year.
In a lifted off-road...
So, excuse me, I need to go back the year before. At the time, not my girlfriend, we'd been hanging out. We got the wild hair that we wanted to race off-road, and I say, yes, I will do this with you.
She sends it too.
Yeah, she's gnarly. She's a drifter. She's arguably a better driver unless it's a piece of crap car. Then I'm a way better driver. Anyway, going too far into that. But no, to that point, she says I went to the Mint 400 in 2020. seems like it's really cool. I'd love to race off road. Like, what do you think? Would you would you want to team up and try this out? And I go, it could be a lot of fun, but if we do it my way. And she goes, well, what does that mean? I go, we do it in a limo.
So she didn't know that.
She
didn't pick up on it was a limo.
She's like, I should have figured. So made some phone calls and actually found a limo that was mildly built. We just needed to get it across the finish line. So we got it there, added the cage, added this proper safety, added some suspension components, things like that, and went for it. And we had no idea. I had talked to Matt Martelli from who owns Mint 400, Martelli Brothers. I go, is there a class for it? He goes, yes. Kind of like a long question. You tailed off and ended in a question mark. And I'm like, so he's like, yeah, you're in. This is what the car needs. Go do that. So we got the car to pass tech and we started. And we were in experimental class. We had one other guy that was supposed to be in that class with us. He had to drop out due to some personal reasons. And to that point, all we had to do was finish. We had to finish the race, we win. He said a guy tried it in a limo back in the 70s. He made it 5 miles in, and his car broke in half, which makes sense with a long wheelbase. And
most limos are like welded together at the seam. They're pretty sketchy.
And not well. You would think they would at least do diagonal welds when they cut the frame, and it's not. It's straight cuts and straight welds. It's terrible.
I know a guy that used to work on limos, and he said, I would never get in a limo or let any of my family members be in the back of a limo with how they build those things.
Me and that guy wouldn't get along. But
well, you crash him on purpose from the driver's seat. He was saying anything behind the driver is just like a mess.
No, it's sketchy. Yeah, it's kind of like how RVs are built. That's why you can crash through those so easy. But to that point, so we start down Mint 400, 8 miles in, we find a crack in our radiator. Not the end of the day, but not a good day.
Was that like a Crown Vic based deal?
It's a 4.6.
Okay, yep. So it was like a Panther chassis
nothing,
limo.
Yep, Lincoln Town Car. Yep. Nothing too advanced for it. Stock motor.
Great car for it.
Yeah, built transmission. So we start down the path again, cracked radiator, 8 miles in. We think we're done, but we try and, we think it was just a leaky hose, so we cut the hose, put it back on, go another, 10 miles, overheats again, pull over. And then that's where we actually find the crack in the side of the radiator, and we're just like, crap. Okay, well, let's, we can't stop now. We're in dead, like it's a no stop zone, and if we stop here, we have to wait for the entire race to be over before they can even come and get us out. So let's just
really.
There's a couple spots in that race where that's the case. Huh. You're done.
Where is it at?
It's in Prim, so just outside of Las Vegas.
Okay. That
Las Vegas, California border. That's where the start line is. But we just kind of persevere. We're making it 10 miles at a time. We every mile marker, there's a guy in an RV. We get all of his water and we dump it. And that's the nice thing about a limo. You got a lot of room for water in the back. But there came points where there was no guy with extra water, things like that. So it got as bad as like I go to jump out and take a leak. Sorry, the kind of forward, but she, co-driver at the time, what are you doing? And I'm like, I gotta go. She's like, go in the radiator. And I think, oh, yep, sorry. So it was anything and everything we had from our celebration champagne in the back to pissing in the radiator to just anything we could to get across the finish line. And then we wanted to quit. There was a great time to pull off. It was about mile 60 something that year. They run the race forward and backwards. So with that year, it was like mile something, like 60 something. And the guy goes, you just cost me $50. And we're sitting there like, what do you mean? He goes, I bet against you. I bet you wouldn't make it this far. And that was like, that guy lit a fire under both our butts. And we're just like, all right, until this thing will not go another foot, we go.
Yeah.
And
well, somebody bet for you though. There was another guy out there
well,
that took the
unless it was like,
for you.
Yeah, that's true. So we had to do it for that guy.
Yeah, it was for that guy.
Actually, that's the first time I ever thought about that. I'm more of a screw you, man.
Yeah. No, not like there's a good guy out there that bet $50, you'd make it.
Thanks, guy. No, screw you, man. So we just kept going, and at the end of that race, it was a mile at a time. It was a mile, pull over, we'd overheated, fill it full of water, go for broke. And then it got to the very end. Power steering's gone. We're stuck in third gear. We don't have low gear. We don't have high gear. We're stuck in third. And then there's a short course portion, which without power steering, that becomes pretty vicious. And we've switched. Gabby, who was driving at the time, she was just better at getting it to go a little further than I was. And then to that point, she just knew the car. Like I didn't know if I jump in the driver's seat at that point, I don't know.
What kind of terrain are you driving over too?
There's whoops. It's arguably the toughest.
Like dirt or rocks or like
everything
all over.
Yeah, you go through a gravel pit. Like it's a gnarly race. I mean, arguably, as they say, North America's toughest off-road race. I mean, that's why I say arguably. Yeah. Anybody could say otherwise, but it's not an easy race, and it's an off-road race to a T. And we get to the short course part. It's maybe 5 miles from the finish, not even that. But there's some big sweeping berms, and I'm kind of just looking at them. I'm looking at every foot we're making because we're getting that close to the finish line. And we come around one berm, and she goes, "You've got to help." So I grab the steering wheel, we make it through the short course, get to the finish line jump. We can't make it up the finish line jump. Too steep. We have no more gearing. All of it's gone. And I go, "Turn this mother around and let's put it in reverse, back up." So we had to finish by 10 p.m., 9:59, we crossed the finish line in reverse. First
Holy
people
crap.
and only people to ever finish the mid-400 limo. That was a long-winded answer to say, yes, round 2, we didn't want it to be a fluke. We wanted to, let's prove.
So after that, you decided, let's do it again?
Let's do it again. Let's make
after
sure.
After all that, you guys still were like, hey, yeah, now we need to do it again.
2 months later, we took a good 2 month. We took a good 2 month break. Like, do we like this? Let's not talk about this. Let's not talk about everything that just happened today. True test of like any friendship or any kind of relationship.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm like, both of us were too stubborn to say we wanted to quit, which was kind of cool. But neither of us got like mad at each other for like, hey, what were you thinking there? What were you doing? Other than when I was not peeing in the radiator. But other than that,
misery loves company.
Yeah, it was one of those like, wow, like you love this stupidity as much as I do. That's great. So yeah, we gave it about 2 months, and then kind of, should we try it again? Should we try it again? Should we go for broke? And so we got the sponsors on board. They said, sure, let's try it. And we knew where things went wrong. So we tripled down on the transmission. I spent, a boatload of cash on that. Spent, bought a new radiator, metal radiator, full, like everything good that time. And we were cruising. We get into the race, and we get on, like it was running backwards. So we get on this, there's a lake bed, and we're cruising. And honestly, at about 8 miles in, just a loud thunk, thunk, thunk. And I'm like, we're done. Look underneath. We'd shattered our front driveline. So not the end of the world. Just pulled the rest of it off, threw it in the back. We're like, cool. We finished the race pretty much last year in two-wheel drive. Think we can do it. We have enough clearance. Like if you're one of the Baja Bugs, those guys do it. Like we can do it. We've got everything we need.
You got a long center. You can high center yourself.
Yes. So the year before, it took us, all day to get to like there's 2 checkpoints that are like the main pit areas. And we were there in like an hour. We're like, we are cruising.
Yeah.
Like the trophy truck guys make it there in like 5 minutes. But it took us an hour. We're like, this is great. We're good. We get there, carry on to the second one. And at that point, it was about mile 55. I can feel the transmission starting to do what it was doing the year before. And I'm
like flare a little bit.
Yep. And we're losing. We have no low end. We have no top end. We're stuck in one gear again. And that's when the heart starts to sink. We get to the second stage, and we look underneath, and we're just dumping transmission fluid. So we've lost a seal, we've lost something, but we're still moving. And we get to the second pit, we fill it full of transmission fluid, put a bunch in the back. But we know now that instead of coming down this canyon, we've got to go up it. So it's going to be a momentum race. And we're going up a hill. I'm standing on the gas pedal. We make it up at top speed of like 10 miles an hour, and now it's overheating again. It's doing everything it did the year before, even though we tried to fix it, just didn't work out. But it's still running, and it's like, well, we're still running. This isn't any more difficult than last year. We just got to this point a little faster. And so we come around one turn and it's into whoops around a tight left. And I'm like, well, it's tight left into an uphill. And I'm like, I've got to keep momentum. So we come around, hit the whoop, where you look in the sky, come down, and then we stop. And I'm like, damn it, what happened? And I'm still flooring it like backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. And Gabby gets out and she just, we're done. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, we're done. Get out. I look and the axle's just snapped in half. So
like the rear axle?
Front axle, just snapped in half. And so we go, luckily there was a one of the safety guys or one of the race officials that was standing right there, and she goes, yeah, you're done. I'm here all night. I'll watch it. You're good. The big trucks come through tomorrow, so you want to just leave it here? We'll come get it after the race. Left it there. Everything was fine that night. So they had the trophy trucks run Sunday, but then we were hoping to get it out that night, and it didn't work out that they could get the forklift that they needed. And they're like, oh, we'll have, it should be fine. And it wasn't.
How many other vehicles are they getting this forklift for? Is it just you?
Just us. Like the limo weighs probably 13,000 pounds. Like it's not a race vehicle by any stretch.
And those Baja trucks, they're pretty good about making sure that they're not broken on the side of the road. They can pretty much fix them.
Or they can yank them out. This thing is just, it weighs too much.
The helicopter in to fix those things sometimes.
Exactly. And when it's a frame on frame, so we're twice the weight. Like it's basically a Chevy 3/4 ton on top of a full-fledged, Lincoln Town Car limo with 39-inch BFGs and, reinforced axles, all that. Like it's a heavy car.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're like, okay, well, and then as we're driving up, they go, we just hear over the intercom, they go, get the owners here quick. It's bad. So
you're coming back to get it 2 days later?
Yep. So Monday morning, because the race goes through Sunday, and they go, and the guy just goes, how bad? He goes, just get him here. And that's when I'm like, this car is like LA freeway stripped. And sure enough, everything was gone.
And how far are you from anything though? Aren't you?
They call this section of the course Dead Man's Land. So we're 63 miles in. There's a couple of dirt roads that you can get there a little bit quicker, but there's nothing around. Like I had no idea that the roads out even existed. So it's a road calm enough to get a giant front end loader in, but it took us 4 hours to do this just because it was slow. All that. And anyway, we get there and Gabby broke down in tears. I was just scratching my head thinking, who thinks that this is theirs? It's not easy to go off-road racing. It costs an exorbitant amount of money, even if it's in a stupid car. It's not cheap. Tires, wheels, seats, radios, and then you pay the pit crew and everything on top of that. And all of that to just be taken was just heartbreaking. We were defeated at that point. They, the guys, the safety guys were good. They helped us out, got it on the trailer and just kind of said, don't know what to tell you right now.
The how is crazy too. How did they manage that
it's one of those,
effectively?
They had to know because they took pieces that you wouldn't know to take unless you're an off-road guy.
Yeah.
Our Atlas transfer case gone, that kind of stuff where you're
not just the wheels and tires.
Not just the wheels and tires.
And everything in it.
Yeah, but that kind of stuff where you're you pulled out an Atlas transfer case in the desert clean, and you took the mini drive line that you can't just buy at that has to be custom. They knew. Anyway, long story long there, and we can finish up with that. The off-road community came together so strong. Yeah, there were those that were should have stayed with the car. Well, we didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm not an off-road racer. We're two idiots that don't really know what they're doing, trying to do something that never been done before twice. But to be honest, the rest of the off-road community came together and just genuinely kind of poured out their hearts, and it was cool. Every sponsor was like, whatever you need, you've got it back.
Yeah.
We want to see this car do it again. We're now taking a big, big breath in. Actually, Gabby's down to Baja 1000, so this may revigorate her to like do it again. I'm like, I will show up. I'd love to see the car roll again. I don't know if I want to go and tempt fate for the third time, but I'll never say never. And if there's somebody that twists my arm hard enough to say that just try your dumb idea one more time, I'll probably do it.
Yeah, I'd like to see it done a little bit. That was a cool deal. I liked watching along as you guys were doing that. And it was heartbreaking when I saw the post a couple days later of like everything just stripped off of it, man. Such a bummer. Well, I know you got to get out of here, so we're going to end it off here. How can people find you? How can they support what you're doing? How can you plug yourself? Get some subscribers, some followers? Any way you can promote yourself right now.
Biggest thing for, I think, me and, the whole crew here is Channel 199. Like, go subscribe to that. That is where you're going to get the inside scoop to kind of everything we have going and see how kind of sketchy everything is. Come over, shut up. Just like I think a lot of people go into what they perceive as being, oh, well, it would be easy if they had money. If I had all that money, if I had this. This is that inside look of like, no, this is as redneck as you get. Somebody made the comment is like, oh, if I wish I could do this for full time, or if I had this much money, it would be easy. And I'm like, you mean, so this should be really difficult for me living paycheck to paycheck, because that's just not the case. But to that point, like Channel 189 is that good inside look, a longer format of like all the back and forth that we have, we have a great time as friends, and hopefully, that kind of camaraderie can be, we just like widen that circle a little bit. And then, Jim_York is me.
Yeah.
That's the quick down and dirty of some other stuff. Yeah, that's the Instagram.
I'll put everything in the description like always, guys. Definitely go check it out. I mean, we talked about all these stunts, but you don't really grasp it until you see it in person or in video, in person, wherever you can see it. I'm sure you post about when stuff's coming up. But, dude, thanks for coming on. That was a blast.
Thanks for having me. And, short notice, but usually the best notice for me. So
that's all we needed.
Be there in 10 minutes. Here we are.